So hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few. My name is Rich Charpentier, I'm the channel host, and normally here we do a lot of talk about drone flight, autonomous drone flight, doing time-lapse progression reports for construction jobs, and general drone imaging and imaging overall. So we cover a lot of different things here. Something I realized is I haven't done any new regular videos here on YouTube. We've been doing a live stream every week. We've also been doing Zoom meetups every Sunday with the folks who subscribe to our Patreon channel. But I just wanted to make a new one. I'm not an expert on Final Cut. I know how to utilize Final Cut, but there's a lot of great experts out there doing Final Cut videos. So if you want to learn a lot more about Final Cut, I'd say check out AV Ultra or just do a search around YouTube in general. There's a lot of great folks doing cool things with Final Cut Pro. So I am mostly a Mac-based shop here. We do have a couple of Windows systems as well, but when we're doing our video editing, it is all in Final Cut. So I've been using it for years and learned from a lot of great resources. I do get asked often, all right, how are you putting these time-lapse construction progression things together? So we've got a couple courses on that over at Teachable, how these things come together. But one of the things that we've never done is a deep dive into Final Cut Pro. And this isn't going to be a deep dive either. Just wanted to show you a very, very simple project that I'm working on for one of our clients. And we're just doing a simple time-lapse orbit. We do have a couple other flights that go together with this video, but I thought it'd be interesting to show you how these come together. So we're looking right now on screen at Final Cut Pro, and you'll notice that we have 3 clips. So we've got 3 clips from 3 different days. We've got one from back in May, and then in June, and then here in July as well, to track this construction project, this new home that's being built. So in order to manage my video outside of Final Cut, I do use one other tool, and we've done some other videos on Kyno as well. So this is Kyno. And if you'd like a deeper dive on Kyno, let me know, and we'll see if we can find some time where it's not a live stream and where we actually put together a full one on utilizing Kyno. But in the case of this particular job, when we get back from doing our flights, I always offload everything. And when it comes to managing videos, I utilize Kyno to manage my videos. When it comes to managing my images, I use Lightroom to manage my images. So I just wanted to take a quick look here. We're going to double click on that first clip. And so I had these clips flagged already. So I'd done some work ahead of doing this video for you. And I flagged the 3 flights that I wanted to put together into one time lapse. So this first one, when I'm looking at Kyno, it says to me this was created and modified on May 11th. So that was the first flight. And by the way, there's going to be a little bit of discrepancy between the first flight and the second and third. The second and third line up really well. The first flight, I did do some extra tweaking on that first flight, and that little bit of change did affect the overall feel of the video. Fortunately, most people won't notice this, so when we have our frames not perfectly lined up, the average person isn't going to notice this, but going forward, they're always going to be well lined up for me. When I look at the second clip here, just double clicking it, and this one was shot on June 19th. Okay, so that is the correct date. And then the most recent visit was paid on July 1st. So there we go. Those are the 3 clips. All 3 of those clips are using the same orbit that I have saved on my Litchi application. So I set up an initial orbit, flew the initial orbit, and then offloaded it back here at the office. And like I said, that's where I realized I wanted to tweak some things with the orbit just a little bit. So orbits 2 and 3 line up perfectly together. They match up. And orbit 1 is just slightly off from those, but that's okay. So getting ready for this morning, I went into Kyno. I made sure I looked up the tags that were on this one, and on this particular one, it was labeled with time-lapse orbit. I will be putting some additional tags in there, as I'm going to be using that labeled time-lapse orbit for other clients as well. So once I had those 3 selected, I brought them over into Final Cut Pro. So I created a new event in Final Cut Pro, and like I said, not an expert on Final Cut Pro here, so if you really want to learn a ton about it, another YouTube is AV So Audio Victor AV Ultra, and you'll learn a lot from them. They also do stuff on Premiere as well. So if you're not a Final Cut user, that's okay. You can check it out. Most of these editing programs do work very similarly though. So down below, we've got, I just want this to be a minute-long video, and other stuff is going to be mixed in later. And so we've got more than a minute long on each of the clips, and you'll see one clip is sitting on top of the other clip. So the clip at the top is the one that we are seeing live. And so one of the things we can do is hide clips. So I'm just clicking into that top clip and I'm hitting the V key, and that hides the clip. And you'll notice below, so there's our video from a couple weeks back. And when I clicked this one off, these were pretty closely lined up. So I'm hiding the most recent flight and showing flight number 2. And now I'm unhiding the most recent flight, and we see that one now. So these are pretty darn close, and I could get them a little closer as well. But I'm going to hide that one. I'm going to hide flight number 2, and we're going to see flight number 1. And so there's flight number 1. So for this, since we're making this as something of a time lapse, I'm scrolling back to the beginning here, right at the start of all of the clips. And what I'm going to do, we're going to do these in 6-second increments. So all I'm going to do down here is take my little scrubbing tool here, and I'm going to bring this over to about 6 seconds. It's not going to be perfectly exact. So right here, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our blade tool, and I'm just clipping all 3 of these. But the next thing I'm going to do is hit the A key to get back to my pointer, and I'm going to select flight number 2 here, and I'm going to hit that V key to turn flight number 2 on. So let's go. Here's flight number 1, and this is where it doesn't mesh up perfect, but that's okay. So here comes that transition to flight number 2. And so on flight number 2, we're now going to, let's see, we were at 6 seconds, so this one, we'll put that right about there at 12 and a little bit of change. And I'm once again going to just hit the blade tool. I don't have to do the blade tool on all 3, but I'm just doing it this way because later on we can delete some of the other stuff or drop things in. So here we go. We've got 6 seconds for flight number 1. So we'll watch flight number 1 moving along here. And then that moves us into flight number 2. And when we have a cross dissolve or something, that's going to feel like a much better transition. And there's flight number 3. So like I said, once we drop in some of these transitions, that's going to add a lot to it. So we need to get up to 18 seconds now. Right about there. And as I said, there's several different ways we can go at this. As you notice, I'm not hiding the clips below when a new clip above is taking its place. So I'm hitting my A key again, and I'm hiding this, and now we're back to flight number 1 when we get into here. So there's flight number 1. And now we need to move this up to 24 seconds if I'm trying to keep this consistent, and then 6 seconds a clip. So here we go. And now I can turn this one back on. So let's go ahead and take a watch with this. Sorry about the chair squeaking, by the way. Got to do something about that. All right, so there's flight number 1, which will then blend to flight number 2, and we can see some of the changes, some of the materials on the rooftop going in here. And then flight number 3, we see the exterior Tyvek is all done, and it looks like all that additional product on the rooftop has also been added. You'll notice now we're back onto flight number 1 again, and then, let's see here, then we get into flight number 2. So there is a little jump between flight number 1 and flight number 2. Once again, when we create that transition, it's not going to be so disturbing to people that they won't get the idea that we are transitioning from piece to piece. So right down here, once again, 24. So let's get this up to 30. And right about in there. A little sensitive. So let's go ahead, whoops, and grab our blade tool again. And now we'll turn flight number 3 on once more. So let's just rewind this a bit, shall we? Let's go back to here. And so that's flight 1 again. And here comes flight 2. So they're not too disjointed. And here we go with flight 3. So you can see 2 and 3 line up nearly perfectly. At this point, we could call ourselves satisfied with this, right? And we could add some additional video in, add some other flight stuff, or we could finish out this orbit a little bit more. I think what I would like to do is do just a bit more of the orbit. So we're going to bring this up to 36. There we go. And let's go with the blade tool. Once again, there are other ways to go at this, and I think you're probably already coming up with a couple of interesting ideas yourself. I'm going to hit my A key again to get back. Here we go. So now we're coming back. So there is flight 1 partway through, and then we're going to come into flight 2. And then we'll get up to flight 3 here in just a moment, just a couple of seconds. There we go. So those two really do mesh well together. And now we go back to flight 1 again. So let's just bring this out a little further, and maybe, just maybe, I'm not going to go nuts with this here. So, and do them all, but let's see here, 36 seconds. So we want to get up to 42. And let's grab that blade tool again. And right here, we'll put flight number 2. And then we're going to go up to 48 seconds. I'm just moving along here. That blade tool again. And let's turn that one on. So there we go. And I can actually even turn that off if I want to. All right, so now we're starting to get the idea here. And what I would do when we're getting to that point of being done. So by the way, let's just go ahead and turn the ones off that we don't need on here. All right, that's good. Oh, actually, I did want this one on and this one off. My apologies. See, I should have split this in a different way. We're just going to drag cross dissolves into here. And just making sure so that the transitions you'll see momentarily, so that the transitions feel much better. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and I really would. You see, we're just dragging these in, and there are much faster ways to do this. I'm just doing this really super simple to give you the general idea. And I just don't want any of the transitions to pop up over each other. So let's fix that one. There we go. And across dissolve there. And let's do a final one here, and we'll say that we're good with it. Even though we didn't do a full 360 degrees around it, let's just start this up. So we just saw that nice little fade in with a cross dissolve. And now we're going to fade to flight number 2. So that is not matching up perfectly, as I said, though. For those of us building these, we're going to be sensitive to this. For clients who are looking at the overall changes in their projects, where they're at time-wise, and where the build is at, they're going to be paying much more attention to the details of the building itself and not that misaligned transition from flight number 1 to flights 2 and 3. But as you can see, nice fade-ins here. We've still got things closely lined up. And then there's flight 2 right there for us. And once again, coming into flight 3. You'll also notice some changes in the ambient light, that we're going from darker areas to lighter areas. I did lock my exposure on flights 2 and 3 because I don't like things varying in and out. And when you're shooting back toward the sun, you're going to have one exposure. When you're shooting away from the sun, you're going to have a different exposure. And I can go back through here and actually clean up some of these clips to brighten those that were underexposed and to pull things down that were slightly overexposed. But so there we go. I'm just clipping through 3 different flights. And the biggest thing is that we need to make sure that the applications that we're using in the field for capture, whether it's image capture or data capture, can repeat these autonomous flights for us. So in the case of this particular video today, we used Litchi. I used the orbit mode. I saved the orbit when I was done. And as I said, orbit number 1 from day number 1, I did a little tweaking after, which kind of misaligned things a little bit, but not enough to be completely and totally upsetting. Now, one of the other things on this is we can actually drop labels in here if we want to, so that we give people, you know, when did this occur? When did we actually have this flight? So all the way back at the beginning, I could go over to my text, and maybe I'll just grab one of my simple text items here. I do like those a lot. And let's see, your title here. Is this one the one that I want to use? Yeah, so we'll drag this down. I'm just putting it above the layer. And so what we can do in here, let's double click those. And May flight. So I'm just using my little text box. So that was the May flight. And I can copy that. Put it right on here again. June flight. And then let's get over to the next one. And this one should be labeled July flight. And then we can copy these throughout. So let's just see what this looks like now. We're actually going to hit this. So telling us, you know, we could say May 2021. We could give the location name, whatever we'd like to do. And June flight, so faded right in from the May flight to June flight. And then the July flight. And of course, we can put these text boxes anywhere we want to. So I could go back through and redo these again. And all I have to do, since I did that copy paste before, is go through and do the next copy paste anyways. So that was May. There's June. And there's July. And let's just play this back through again. By the way, so the editing that I'm doing, the work that I'm doing here, pretty much live. We are using Final Cut Pro with an Apple Mini M1. So it's the new M1 chip. And this thing renders really fast. So I've got an iMac sitting off to my right, and it does not render anywhere close to the speed that this M1 chip is rendering at. So this machine is basically just for my video and still editing. So as you see here, and there we go, there's the July flight. So I'll still be going back through this, and like I said, there are other ways and easier ways than the way I've been breaking these up. So I could have simplified this for myself a little more, but I just wanted to show you one of the basic ways that you can do this. And yeah, it does start getting messy with all these clips and all these breakpoints. So, you know, there are advanced ways where we could just have clips 1, 2, and 3. One of the things we could do, we're on clip 1, second layer we're on clip 2, and then we're on clip 3. We could delete these unused clips and just drop all the other clips down and put them into one single timeline instead of the 3 layers. So that's another way to go at it that you might want to consider. All right, everybody, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative, and it starts giving you ideas about how you can do some of your own construction progression reporting videos with your drone for your drone business. And if you'd like to see more of this and maybe a full project on this, or also a full start to finish where we're also coming back from the field, dropping things into Kyno, getting things labeled in Kyno, and then moving everything into Final Cut for the final creations, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Feel free to drop a note. Also, feel free to stop by our main website, azdrone.net. And also, you've seen our Patreon link and our Teachable link down in the right-hand corner of the screen as well. So if you're interested in some of our course materials on autonomous drone flight and drone construction progression reporting, pop on over to our Teachable and check out some of the previews. You don't have to purchase anything right away. You can see the previews beforehand, see if you like the teaching style and the information that we give you. So as always, thanks for stopping in. If you did enjoy this, be sure to like and subscribe to get new notifications. If you want to see some behind the scenes thing and additional information, including multiple Zoom meetings per month with our patrons, pop on over to our Patreon channel, check it out, and see if it's something for you as well. All right, everybody, once again, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it was informative, and we'll see you again really soon. And for our patrons, we'll see you again this coming Sunday morning.